Welcome, wayward travelers, to the Scarlet Tavern, where stories are told in candlelight and the truth is chased like spirits in a bottle.
Imagine a beautiful spring Wednesday morning in downtown Oklahoma City, April 19th, 1995. Parents are dropping their little ones off at America's Kids Daycare on the second floor of the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. Federal workers, secretaries, investigators, accountants are settling in at their desks, pouring coffee, chatting about weekend plans and their kids' baseball games. 21 small children are already playing inside the daycare. The city is alive with the normal rhythm of a spring morning in the heartland.
Then, at 9:02 a.m., everything changes in a single horrifying moment.
In this first episode, we're going to walk the path that led to that devastating moment. We'll explore the uneasy mood in America in the early 1990s, follow Timothy McVeigh's transformation from soldier to radical, watch as the deadly plot slowly takes shape with his accomplices, stand on the street during those final tense minutes, and experience the immediate shattering impact of the explosion and the first heroic responses.
This is heavy territory, y'all. Today's episode includes a detailed discussion of domestic terrorism, the sudden deaths of 168 innocent people, including 19 young children, graphic descriptions of the blast of injuries, and stories of profound loss. We tell these stories with deep respect for every victim and survivor, but we can understand it can be difficult. It can be emotionally difficult. If at any point it becomes too much, please pause, take a breath, and come back when you're in a better headspace. Your mental health matters.
All right, glasses are raised, the fire's warm, and we're all gathered close. Let's begin.
This is Scarlet Tavern. All right. So, welcome back. Welcome to our new music. That was perfectly timed. I could not have done that better. So our intro was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's try and keep it at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That'll give us 6 minutes of that outro left, or 6 seconds of that outro left. But that's great.
I don't know if I can make the... we'll have to stretch some intros then.
Yeah. But, yeah. So here we are. Ellie's going to join us a little bit later. They have stuff going on, so they'll pop in here. So if you're watching the vidcast, you'll see them jump in. Or if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll hear them jump in a little bit later, and they'll randomly start talking, and you'll wonder who this fourth person is. But yeah, so we are going into... So we took a break from the last two episodes, mostly because Ben was at his 2-week drill. And he really wanted to finish out this long series for us, because obviously, as we've explained, all of these are connected. Ruby Ridge, then Waco, and now Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing.
It kind of really reinforces the whole things come in threes.
Yeah, so that's why we wanted to wait, because Ben wasn't going to be able to record for this 2 weeks, so we cut him in with the nerdy stuff, and then now we're going to finish this out and then get into some other great stuff. We want to apologize for any delays in release schedules, but we've had a lot going on.
Yeah, and technical issues.
Yeah, we've had some technical issues. We had to buy a new soundboard.
That's why there wasn't a podcast last week.
Yeah, we got a lot of shit. So there wasn't anything last week, but we're cutting a nerdy episode out later on so that we can fit everything we want in. So it'll all work out. But yeah, and then I've been working like crazy. I was supposed to work 8 days in a row. And then tomorrow I start 10 days in a row. So a lot. But we're here, and we have some exciting things coming on the other channels. if you follow us on the other stuff, you'll see we posted a little teaser of something coming next year. We're not sure exactly when next year. Should be the beginning, but we'll see. But yeah, so stay tuned for that. Check that one out at Best Damn Game Night on all of the socials there. And you'll see some new stuff coming for that. There is new music coming out there, which is pretty awesome. If you watch the teaser, the music, the very end of it is the teaser to the music. It's the beginning of our theme song for that. So, yeah. So, and then Scarlet Tavern's gonna keep rolling. So, we have a plethora of topics that we have on deck. God, I think we probably have 4 or 5 more seasons worth, at least,
Let me double check.
without the nerdy stuff put in. For those that, well, we're recording this on the 5th. It'll come out in a couple days. But happy 4th.
Yep.
Yes.
Happy birthday, America.
250 fucking years from getting away from the commies.
So we have 313 topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have plenty. That's 313 weeks of stuff. How many weeks are in a year, everybody?
365.
No, wrong.
Oh, wait, 52.
365 days. 52 weeks in a year. So 300 divided by 52, that's about 4. So give or take. So 4 years worth.
And that's also not including us throwing random shit in.
And that's also not including anything else we think of. So we still have at least 4 more seasons of this. We'd like to obviously keep this going as long as possible, but eventually we will at some point maybe run out of topics. There's only so much bad in the world you can talk about, but who knows? Who knows what'll happen then? But all right. Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, let's do this. So, in the early months of 1995, I was 3.
I was 4.
I was 7.
No, Pam, early months of,
Yeah, I would be 4.
yeah.
Ben would have only been 6.
Yeah.
Closer to 7.
At early months, you'd have still been 6, though.
So, when this happened, I had just turned 3. So, in the early months of 1995, if you step back and looked at the surface of American life, the country seemed to be finding its footing after years of uncertainty. The Cold War had ended just a few years earlier, and the long shadow of nuclear standoff with the Soviet Union had finally lifted. President Bill Clinton was having Monica Lewinsky under his desk. Just kidding. Well, I'm not, but
No.
was well into his first term. The economy was slowly pulling out, not the only thing, out of a recession. And everyday conversations in homes and workplaces revolved around familiar rhythms, kids' Little League games, the latest blockbuster movies, and the endless media coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial unfolding in California. Cable television was expanding, the internet was beginning to appear in more households, and many families across the Midwest and beyond were focused on getting through the work week and planning summer road trips. Oklahoma City itself felt like a typical American heartland hub. The state capital, home to a solid federal workforce, oil and agriculture industries, and a proud sense of community resilience. On any given weekday morning, the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building would have been filled with the usual bustle. Employees from agencies like the Social Security Administration, Housing and Urban Development, and others starting their shifts, grabbing coffee, and chatting about weekend plans.
The highest grossing blockbuster movie in 1995 at this point, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Great Christmas movie.
It is not a fucking Christmas
Actually,
movie.
no, this
Not
is
that one.
This is the third one. This
Yeah.
is
The first one's a Christmas movie.
No,
yes,
it
yeah.
fucking isn't.
It
Yes,
is. But
Let us know in the comments if Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not.
it's a Christmas movie.
No, it's not.
It's a moist Christmas movie.
Really?
Are we just going to make an ASMR channel?
Please
But
don't.
Beneath that everyday normalcy ran a deeper, more restless current. One of growing distrust and outright resentment toward the federal government. This wasn't a fringe opinion held by a tiny handful of people. It reflected a widening divide that had been building for several years. In rural areas, among some military veterans, gun rights advocates, and those drawn to survivalist and constitutional ideas, the federal government was increasingly portrayed not as a protector of liberty, but as an overreaching force that threatened the very freedoms this nation was founded upon. Newsletters, shortwave radio programs, gun show tables, and early online forums buzzed with warnings about federal agents overstepping their bounds and ordinary citizens being targeted for their beliefs or lifestyles. Two high-profile confrontations in particular had become lightning rods for those feelings. They had dramatically accelerated the growth of what was being called the Patriot Movement and its armed offshoots, the citizen militias. The first occurred in August 1992 in the rugged, isolated mountains of northern Idaho at a place called Ruby Ridge. It began when federal marshals attempted to arrest Randy Weaver on a weapons charge. What followed was an 11-day standoff involving Weaver, his wife Vicky, their children, and a friend. By the end, Weaver's 14-year-old son, Sammy, had been shot and killed. Vicky Weaver was fatally shot while holding her infant daughter. Daughter survived. And a U.S. Marshal had also died. The incident involved FBI snipers and a controversial rules of engagement policy that later drew intense criticism even from within law enforcement circles. For many who followed the story through alternative media channels, Ruby Ridge wasn't simply a botched operation. It was concrete proof that federal authorities could and would use lethal force against American families who dared to live outside mainstream expectations. The event was dissected endlessly in patriot circles as evidence of a government that had lost its way and was now treating its own citizens like enemies. For more information, please go visit Scarlet Tavern Podcast in previous episodes where we did Ruby Ridge.
I think it was 6 episodes ago.
Yeah, something like that. So go check those out. We do have a couple episodes on Ruby Ridge. So just months later, in early '93, another standoff captured the nation's attention for 51 grueling days outside Waco, Texas. Federal agents from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, also known as the most useless agency in the world,
Really is.
initially raided the Branch Davidian religious compound on suspicion of illegal weapons possession. The raid turned violent, and a long siege involving the FBI followed. On April 19th, 1993, after negotiations broke down, the compound was engulfed in flames during the final assault. More than 70 men, women, and children inside perished in the fire. Television footage of the burning buildings played on loop across the country. While official investigations later pointed to actions taken by those inside the compound, a significant segment of the public, particularly those already skeptical of federal power, saw the entire episode as an unforgivable display of excessive force. To them, Waco represented the ultimate example of an arrogant bureaucracy willing to destroy lives rather than allow a group to exist peacefully on its own terms. The date of the final assault, April 19th, quickly took on a sacred and ominous significance in these circles. And again, if you want to hear more about that, go listen to the ones after Ruby Ridge,
4 episodes ago.
4 episodes ago, and go listen to our 2 episodes on Waco. We go deep into that. Now, these 2 events acted like catalysts, supercharging the growth of organized resistance groups. Where citizen militias had once been rare and scattered, they began appearing in dozens of states by the mid-1990s. Estimates put the total number of active militia and related anti-government groups in the hundreds, with membership figures in the tens of thousands nationwide. These were not all identical in ideology or approach. Some focused strictly on training and community defense, others blended in conspiracy theories, but they'd shared a common thread: the belief that the federal government had become tyrannical and that ordinary Americans needed to prepare to defend their constitutional rights, sometimes with force if necessary. Training weekends in wooded areas, the study of founding documents, and the stockpiling of supplies become common activities. Now, I want to talk about something here because I have a connection to this in a way. So, the group I was a part of was never anti-government or militia. There was a group of them that did branch off and do some anti-government things, which is why I'm no longer associated with them, but it was not the group as a whole. I was a member in Florida of a group called the 3%ers. Even have it tattooed. Tattoo will be getting covered up. But basically the 3%ers are a group of individuals, men and women. Most of them are military law enforcement. Almost everybody's first responders. We had some lawyers, stuff like that. Their belief was that they were the last line of defense against a tyrannical government. It was never anything radical. It was just simply, hey, if the government does overstep, we will do what we need to do. But it was never, hey, we're going to go bomb this place, we're going to go do that, blah, blah, blah. 3% coming from the 3% of the people that fought during the Revolutionary War. Only 3% of what would become the American population fought during the Revolutionary War. So that is where the number 3 comes from. It equates also to the 1% of the number of members of the U.S. military, members of America that sign up for the U.S. military and fight. You will sometimes see the symbol. It is 3 Roman numerals, for those that can see it, 3 Roman numerals, and then 13 stars around, representing the original 13 colonies, and then 1776 underneath for the founding.
So I don't know if I put it. Okay, I did. Okay, never mind. It's the next.
But there was a group of the 3%ers. Again, my group was called the original 3%ers. These were the new 3%ers. They went off. They did a lot of shady shit and ended up getting arrested and becoming a terrorist organization. And again, they're still considered separate, like on the government list, because we actually had federal employees that worked for us or that were in with us. But I was the state training officer for the entire state of Florida. So I handled everybody's training and stuff like that. But all that to say, I do have some kind of understanding of some of this stuff, just not to the extremes that these people went.
I mean, I remember when this was all going, because I actually do remember this.
Well, yeah, you were old enough.
Yes, I was old enough to remember seeing this. But I also remember...
We weren't.
I don't remember this.
No, but I remember it because this was very much like these survivalist militias were like really like one of the first fads. Like everybody was doing it. Every Yahoo in a bowling league was just going out into the woods and pretending they were in the army or they were back in the army or whatever branch they served in and complaining about the government, basically. Now, obviously, there were some like the Free Montana militia who were a little more hardcore about it, but yeah, this was like a big thing back in the 90s, just forming your own little militia group. Like everybody watched Red Dawn a little too much in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Fueling the unease were recent changes in federal gun laws that many viewed as direct attacks on the Second Amendment. The Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act, passed in 1993, required background checks for handgun purchases and was seen by critics as the first major step toward nationwide gun registration and eventual confiscation. They would never do that.
No.
No.
The following year, the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act included the 1994 federal assault weapons ban, which restricted certain semi-automatic rifles and shotguns and large capacity magazines. Supporters framed these measures as common sense public safety steps after high-profile shootings. Still, in militia and patriot communities, they were interpreted as the opening salvo of a broader disarmament campaign. Pamphlets and speeches warned of jackbooted government thugs coming for lawfully owned firearms, and fears of a so-called New World Order, a supposed globalist plot involving the United Nations and elite insiders to erode American sovereignty circulated widely.
God, I think the New World Order has become basically a meme at this point.
Yeah. In this tense atmosphere, the calendar itself began to carry heavy symbolic weight. April 19 had long been observed as Patriots' Day, marking the anniversary of the 1775 battles of Lexington and Concord. Not that far from us. The opening shots of the Revolutionary War against British rule.
Lexington and Concord was Massachusetts.
Yeah, I know.
I'd say, I'm like...
How's that not close to us?
I was making a joke. Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Things did happen there, too. For those steeped in anti-government ideology, the date now took on layered meaning. It was also the exact second anniversary of the fiery end of the Waco siege. The alignment felt deliberate and ominous to some, a reminder that history's cycles of resistance against tyranny might be repeating. So, while the majority of Americans in 1995 continued to place faith in democratic institutions and the rule of law, a parallel undercurrent had taken shape. One defined by deep alienation, armed preparedness, and the convictions that the greatest threat to liberty no longer came from foreign enemies, but from within the federal government itself. It was a country divided not just by politics, but by fundamentally different understandings of what freedom required and who could be trusted to protect it. And in that charged environment, the stage was quietly being set for events that would test the nation's resilience in ways few could have imagined. Timothy James McVeigh was born on April 23rd, 1968 in Lockport, New York, a working-class community just outside Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was the middle child of Bill and Mickey McVeigh, an Irish-American couple whose marriage had already begun showing cracks by the time their second baby arrived. Bill worked long shifts at a radiator factory while Mickey managed the household. The family lived a modest, middle-class life centered around church bingo nights, bowling alleys, and Friday night football games.
Because there's really not else much to do in Lockport.
But when Timothy was just 10 years old, the marriage finally dissolved. His parents separated for good, and the two girls, older sister Patty and younger sister Jennifer, moved with their mother to Florida. Timothy stayed behind in Pendleton, New York, with his father in a small house that would become his primary world for the rest of his childhood and teenage years.
It's only about 10 minutes between Lockport and Pendleton.
Yeah, and in the 10 minutes you went from on the very fringes of Buffalo to fucking backwoods of Niagara County. Jesus Christ.
From an early age, those who knew him described Timothy as quiet and introspective. A boy who could be playful and outgoing in very small doses, but more often withdrew into himself. Classmates later recalled him as scrawny and non-athletic. Must be a Buffalo thing. Someone who endured typical schoolyard bullying, being dangled by his feet over a toilet for a swirly, or being picked up on during softball games. Again, sounds like a Buffalo thing.
I think it was probably supposed to be picked on.
Yeah.
Oops, my bad.
He developed what would become a lifelong sensitivity to what he saw as unfair power imbalances, later framing it as a deep hatred for bullies of any kind.
Oh, boo-hoo.
His grandfather, Ed McVeigh, played a formative role, introducing the boy to firearms at a young age. Timothy would spend hours in a nearby ravine practicing marksmanship by shooting at soda cans with his grandfather's .22 caliber rifle.
That's about all there is to do in Pendleton.
By the time he reached his early teens, that fascination had blossomed into something more intense, an interest in survivalism. He began stockpiling canned foods and camping gear, convinced that either a nuclear attack or a communist takeover of the United States was looming. High school at Star Point Central did little to change his inward nature. Academically, McVeigh performed well on standardized tests, but showed little enthusiasm for most classes or extracurricular activities aside from running track. He was quiet enough that classmates jokingly voted him most talkative in the yearbook. Socially, he remained awkward, especially around girls. Again, is that a Buffalo thing?
Okay, seriously, fuck you.
He never had a steady girlfriend and later admitted to journalists that he often said the wrong thing when trying to impress someone, leaving him nervous and frustrated. Under his yearbook photo, he listed his plans with casual bravado. Take it as it comes. Buy a Lamborghini. California girls. California girls. They're unforgettable. After graduation in 1986, Ben was alive.
No, I wasn't.
He briefly enrolled in a 2-year business college near home on a partial scholarship. He even tried his hand at computer programming, once hacking into government systems using a Commodore 64 under the handle The Wanderer. But college didn't hold his interest, and he dropped out to bounce between low-paying jobs, first flipping burgers at Burger King, later working as an armed security guard, where coworkers noticed he would show up for shifts looking like a walking arsenal, bandoliers and all.
So the college he went to is Brighton Stratton.
Brian Stratton, I know
Yeah.
that. I was about to say, I'm like, I think I know which college he went to. Fucking Brian Stratton. Dear God, he really was a fucking loser.
Let me see really quick. Let me see something. He worked for, there's a Burger King in Amherst.
I think I know which one.
He worked there. And then there's another one in Lockport that he worked at.
If it's the one in Amherst that I'm thinking of, I wonder if it is the same one.
So, in May 1988, at age 20, McVeigh made what felt like the natural next step. He enlisted in the United States Army. Must be a Buffalo thing.
Oh, will you stop saying everything's a Buffalo thing?
Basic training and advanced infantry school at Fort Benning.
Ew.
That suited him perfectly. He thrived under the structure and discipline, quickly earning a reputation as one of the most dedicated soldiers in his unit. And this is the thing, like, he was actually a well-decorated soldier.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
all accounts, he
We're
actually
going to
did-
talk about his awards, but he's a well-decorated soldier.
Yeah, we're
A
gonna-
lot of times we'll see, like, really shitty soldiers that go on and do this shit, get out because
They couldn't conform to it.
yeah, but he actually conformed really well and performed really well in Desert Storm, all of that. And, like, I mean, if you look at this guy and look at his DD-214, you would never go, oh, hey, he's going to try and blow somebody up.
Yeah.
Like, he's a model soldier.
Yeah, we're getting into it, but yeah, he wasn't
He was assigned to the 1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas, where he became a sergeant and an outstanding Bradley fighting vehicle gunner, mastering the M242 25mm cannon with exceptional precision.
must be nice.
Not hard to do.
I mean, that's I can't say for sure. I mean, it's
I've shot a Mark 19, which is pretty close, and I got an expert marksman on that, and it's not really hard to do. Fellow soldiers remembered him as the best shot in the platoon and someone who used his spare time to devour manuals on firearms, sniper tactics, and explosives.
he was one of those.
But now, if he was a civilian, obviously this would be cause for concern. He's infantry. Who knows? Maybe he wanted to become a sniper or go special forces, whatever.
We would have called him high speed, and
Oh, yeah.
like unironically, he was the guy.
speed, low drag.
He would have been the guy who all he's doing is talking about the next, like, I
Yeah.
could do this, and then we're just like, dude.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, there are people looking at him like, dude, can we
Like,
stop talking about
He
work
comes
for like
from
5 fucking
he comes
minutes?
home from a deployment and asks when the next one is.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, just calm the fuck down.
In early '91, his unit deployed to the Persian Gulf for Operation Desert Storm. McVeigh distinguished himself immediately. On his first day in combat, he scored a direct hit on an Iraqi tank more than 500 yards away.
The Iraqis probably abandoned
That
the
is
tank.
huge.
It isn't.
Actually, no, it wasn't abandoned.
Oh,
I've read it, and it was filled.
okay.
He took out some Iraqis with that. Good riddance.
Yeah.
He later described watching Iraqi soldiers surrender in droves and from over 1,000 yards using cannon fire to devastating effect.
Yeah, we really creamed the Iraqis
Yeah.
during that. They were using actually not that outdated Russian T-72 models in there, but the problem is they could shoot, their stuff was like 500 yards away. We were shooting miles, like a mile away. They couldn't even see us.
Yeah. The experience left him both proud and quietly shaken by the scale of the destruction he witnessed on the roads leading out of Kuwait City. For his service, he received the Bronze Star Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Southwest Asia Service Medal, and the Army Service Ribbon and the Kuwait Liberation Medal. Again, well decorated.
Yeah, not bad. I mean,
some of those stuff are givens.
Yeah.
I mean,
The Bronze Star is the one
Bronze
thing
Star
that's
is
not
but
given.
here's the thing about the Bronze Star.
Anybody can get it if you're attached to the unit.
Yes, because the only thing that, and this is just the opinion of some people, this is not our opinions, and it's definitely not my opinion. The only Bronze Star that really matters individually is the Bronze Star for Valor.
Correct.
Now, to get a Bronze Star is still nothing to say, it's whatever. They
But
just
like
give away.
the chaplain that stayed on base attached to an infantry unit that
He could get
earned
a
the Bronze Star, he gets a Bronze Star, and he never even saw combat.
Yeah, so
just putting that out there. Now, obviously, Timothy McVeigh did see combat.
yeah.
And I definitely think it played a big role on how he ended up.
Also, the National Defense Service Ribbon. For us, Gotwar veterans
We got it.
us, we got it.
We got
sorry.
it the second we got out of basic.
Yeah, so to us, that's nothing.
Yeah.
But back then, you didn't get that right out of service. So he actually had to earn that one.
Yeah.
The other two, the Southwest Asia Service and the Kuwait Liberation,
That's from being in the area.
everybody got those.
Yeah.
Just for being there. People in the
Chow duty.
Yeah, got those ones.
Yeah. When the war ended, McVeigh set his sights on something even more elite, the U.S. Army Special Forces. He entered the rigorous assessment and selection course, but the physical and mental demands proved too much for him. Because he's a bitch.
He is.
He withdrew early, on the second or third day, depending on the account, citing an injured ankle to those around him, though in a letter to his superiors, he acknowledged he was not physically ready. And just FYI, he was going for the Rangers.
Jesus.
The disappointment hit hard. Shortly afterward, in December 91, he received an honorable discharge and returned to civilian life feeling unmoored. He moved back in with his father near Buffalo and took a security job that paid barely above minimum wage. Wonder where that was.
I don't know, but
I'm
I
sure
know
there's a lot around there.
security jobs around Buffalo, and I can say this with accuracy, pay nothing.
And this was in the 90s.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what they were paying back then.
The transition was difficult. He worked long hours and dead-end roles, struggled with depression, and even experienced fleeting suicidal thoughts. Maybe you should have done it.
Yeah.
Don't be a quitter. In this aspect, he should have killed himself.
Yeah.
It would have saved a lot of lives.
Yes, it would have.
Rejections and his romantic attempts only deepened his frustration and anger.
Bet you any money he cruised around the bars of Chippewa Street trying to be like, hey, I saw combat. I killed some Iraqis.
Like, okay.
Guarantee you he did that.
Rejections, there's a bureaucratic mix-up over an Army overpayment of $1,058, as equivalent to $2,500 now. Money he was suddenly ordered to repay left him furious.
Okay, now that I understand.
I have friends that has happened to.
Yeah, okay, this part I sympathize with them.
Yes.
Yes.
This part I would have blown up a building for.
Nah.
Now,
Listen, the military does this all the time. They do overpayments. If you're in the military long enough, you know that if you got extra money, you better hold on to it for a week or two to confirm that it's right before you go spend it.
when Pam got her severance pay from the Air Force, and I woke up early and I saw it, and she didn't. I got scared. I was like, oh my god, and kept thinking that they just way overpaid us. I had to run to the finance office where my friend worked and be like, Josh, is this good? And he was like, he looked it up, and he's like, yeah.
Or wait, recently when you got your bonus.
When you
Yeah,
got
that
that
one really
bonus.
scared me too. I'm like, oh,
Because it was bigger than what it was supposed to be.
And we're like, oh, fuck.
We said,
Oh,
you better fucking hold on to it and make sure it's right. And then they obviously confirmed it was right.
yeah.
So In a bitter letter to the government, he wrote, "Go ahead, take everything I own. Take everything I own. Take my dignity. Feel good as you grow fat and rich at my expense, sucking my tax dollars and property."
Yeah, and the thing is, if you
Hey, listen, we've all gotten mad at finance. We understand that.
in the military, if you get overpaid, they don't give a shit if you have the money in your account.
Yep.
They will go ahead and overdraw your account,
Yep.
not even caring.
Yep. Because it's federal paycheck.
And they have no apparatus in place to take back the money.
Yep. So that sense of betrayal soon expanded far beyond one paycheck. McVeigh began channeling his discontent into outspoken political views. In March 1992, when I was born, he wrote a letter to the Lockport Union Sun and Journal declaring America is in decline.
Oh my God!
Do we have to shed blood to reform the current system?
So like 10 people.
Does that even exist anymore?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like 10 people read it.
He quit the National Rifle Association, calling it too soft on gun rights, which is saying something, and started moving between states with lower taxes to escape what he saw as government overregulation. By late 1992, he had sold most of his possessions, quit his security job, and embraced a transient lifestyle. He was homeless.
Yeah.
He hit the gun show circuit hard, traveling through 40 states and visiting roughly 80 shows. There, he sold military surplus, survival gear, and copies of the underground novel The Turner Diaries,
Oh boy.
which depicted a lone gun enthusiast rising against a tyrannical federal government. And you can still buy this.
Yeah. The Turner Diaries is a little more than that.
Yeah.
It's very racist. It talks about the genocidal killing of all minorities and people of different sexual orientations.
Yeah, it's bad.
And it also celebrates the birthday of Hitler in there.
Don't buy it.
Yeah, don't.
Don't support the writer.
This is like, yeah, the writer's dead, but
Yeah,
still,
but the family still gets the money.
yeah, just this
Don't
is
support
not.
that.
This is from what I've read. It's not even like a good book, like in of itself. It's not even that good.
The shows became more than a way to make money. They connected him with like-minded people who shared his growing conviction that Washington was slowly eroding American liberties through gun control measures and federal overreach. Two events in particular accelerated his transformation. The 1992 Ruby Ridge standoff in Idaho, where federal agents clashed with the Weaver family, left McVeigh horrified by what he viewed as a lethal misuse of government power. Doesn't discuss him enough to not drive to Waco and sell shit on the side of the fucking road.
Yeah.
Then in early 93, he drove to Waco, Texas during the Branch Davidian siege. He spent days on the scene handing out pro-gun literature and bumper stickers that read, "When guns are outlawed, I will become an outlaw, and fear the government that fears your gun." Now, I will say, he did not hand these out. He sold the bumper stickers.
Yeah.
This wasn't a handout. He was making money on this.
Yeah. Well, he's basically homeless. Like, I don't.
Yeah. When the compound burned on April 19th, 1993, killing dozens of men, women, and children, McVeigh watched the footage in disbelief. He began distributing pamphlets titled "U.S. Government Initiates Open Warfare Against American People." It even produced videos and sold items like ATF hats riddled with bullet holes. For 5 straight months afterward, he worked the gun show tables, handing out cards with the home address of the FBI sniper involved at Ruby Ridge, encouraging others to take action.
Wow.
Yeah.
He changed the message on his answering machine to a quote from Patrick Henry: "Give me liberty or give me death."
This dude really needed a fucking hobby. He went
Yeah.
into this like.
Well, he had one and he got discharged from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't care how bad a person is. Do not put their personal information on.
Yeah.
Lying.
Do not dox people.
Again, modern times, digital times, we call it doxing.
Yes.
Do not do that.
No.
Do not say that Ben's email is
Hey.
and his phone number is. By the end of 1994, I'll put it on a card and hold it up. By the end of 1994, McVeigh's letters and conversations had grown even more strident. He warned of impending civil war if the government continued its path, complained bitterly about taxes, funding bureaucratic waste. That one I don't disagree with, and railed against. That should be rallied. I don't think he's railing new firearm restrictions. Who knows? Maybe this guy
I always pronounce it as railed, so that's how I spell it.
rallied against federal firearms restrictions.
Did you change that? Because I'm pretty sure I did write rally.
No, that was there. No, that was still there.
Oh.
Apparently he's railing firearms. Would not surprise me.
Mistype.
that he believed threatened his very way of life. Sorry, our proofreader and editor doesn't have a great Buffalo education.
Yeah, so that's not saying much for the Florida education.
Who's the one in college right now?
Yeah.
The once proud soldier who had served his country in combat that had become convinced that the real enemy was no longer overseas, but inside the institutions he had once sworn to protect. His anger, once a proud soul. What?
Hold on.
Okay. So, his anger, once scattered and personal, had hardened into a focused ideological rage, one that left him searching for a way to strike back at the system he now saw as the ultimate bully. Sorry about that. Like I said,
I don't know where you messed up.
you messed up. It's literally a double line.
Yeah.
It says the same thing twice.
Oh, my bad.
Just in a different form,
Yeah.
which I didn't catch either. So
By the fall of 1994, everybody's fired. I'll just do it myself. Timothy McVeigh had moved beyond isolated expression of fury and into active collaboration with two men who shared enough of his worldview to turn abstract rage into a concrete operational plan. Terry Nichols, whom McVeigh had known since basic training, lived a quieter life on farms in Michigan and later Kansas, where his rural routines provided natural cover for bulk purchases that might otherwise raise eyebrows. Yeah, so Terry Nichols owned a farm and would be able to get a lot of the fuel for dirty bombs that they needed because he used it on a farm.
yeah, it goes. I think at this section it does go into all of it.
This is the reason. This exact reason is why they have more regulations on this stuff now. Is from these people.
Yes.
Michael Fortier, another Army acquaintance living in Arizona, was brought into the circle early but proved far more hesitant once the scale of what McVeigh envisioned became clear. Together, the three men began a deliberate months-long campaign to assemble the components of a massive truck bomb, choosing a symbolic target, and work out the technical details of making it function. And we'll see how stupid Timothy McVeigh is to rent it in his own fucking name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also how a lot of a little bit of a controversy when it comes to Michael Fortier.
Yeah.
We'll see
Yeah.
later on.
I don't think it really goes into it.
We'll
too
talk
much
about
in
it when we
part
get
two,
down there.
But
Yeah.
Funding came first. McVeigh and Nichols targeted a gun collector and dealer named Roger Moore, someone McVeigh had encountered at shows.
Not the actor.
Yeah. In October 94, they carried out a burglary at Moore's home in Arkansas, taking rifles, handguns, gold, silver, and jewelry valued by investigators at roughly $6,000.
60.
$60,000. And that's in 94. So,
Which is a lot.
yeah.
Now.
The stolen goods were later traced to Nichols' house and a rented storage shed, confirming the link. Again, they weren't that smart. I mean, they were in the Army, so. That haul gave the conspirators operating capital without attracting the attention of banks or legitimate businesses.
These guys are infantry. I'm surprised they actually
Oh,
got
yeah.
this far.
So today the 60,000 is about $135,677.
Yeah. With money in hand, they turned to the raw materials that would form the device's core. Ammonium nitrate fertilizer, cheap, legal, and powerful when properly sensitized, became the foundation. On September 30th, 1994, Nichols walked into the Mid-Kansas Cooperative in McPherson, Kansas, and bought 40 50-pound bags, 2,000 pounds in total, under the pretense of agricultural use, which again, he owned multiple farms. They were family farms, so they needed it, and they had a pretty big farm.
Yeah.
It's also where they built everything too. He returned on October 18th for one more bag. Over the following weeks and months, the pair continued to acquire the oxidizer in quantities that would eventually exceed 4,800 pounds. At the same time, McVeigh sourced nitromethane, a high-energy racing fuel used to increase the bomb's bristance and fireball effect. After being turned away at a drag racing event in Kansas for asking questions that raised suspicion, he managed to purchase several barrels at another event in Ennis, Texas, on October 1994.
Now, from what I understood, he could have probably gotten away with just diesel, but he wanted the big splash,
Yeah, he
as it
wanted the big
was.
boom.
So he probably could have just gotten diesel, and he probably would have flown even more under the radar.
Yeah. Explosive boosters and detonators required more covert methods. McVeigh burglarized a Martin Marietta aggregates quarry near Marianne, Kansas, stealing 80 spools of shock tube and roughly 500 electric blasting caps along with other high explosives. It's a lot.
How, from what I understand, this didn't even really barely register on
because
anything.
it was such a big quarry that they didn't realize that that stuff was missing.
Yeah, like, good
Because
God.
now, I mean, back then, nobody, why would they count it all?
Yeah.
They didn't need to. Now they do. Now everything's so regulated that by law they have to count it. And
Because of this.
yes,
They would have had, this today, you had ATF and FBI
Oh, yeah.
all over the
they
place.
would never have gotten away with it. That's why
No.
we don't see many bombings anymore. It's very hard to do now.
Yeah.
Additional Tovex sausages and commercial water gel explosives were obtained through separate channels. Now, these are not edible sausages. Tovex sausages are explosives. These components would serve as the reliable initiators for the much larger main charge. The men also experimented with smaller test charges in remote desert areas near Kingman, Arizona, using everyday containers to gauge burn rate, sensitivity, and explosive yield. The recipe evolved through trial and error into a potent mixture. Please do not make this.
Yeah.
I would just admit.
No, I mean it's all
It's all out of the
you can-
internet.
Yeah.
It's not like
Ammonium nitrate sensitized with nitromethane and diesel fuel, packed to maximize directional force. Again, there's no numbers in there, so
we will never put that.
correct. Even though I know what it is, because I've read it before. Target selection occupied much of late 1994. McVeigh and Nichols drove across several states looking for federal buildings that housed at least two of the agencies that they blamed for the events at Ruby Ridge and Waco, particularly the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the FBI, and the DEA. They considered sites in Missouri, Arkansas, Texas, and Arizona before narrowing in on Oklahoma City. The Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building stood out for several practical and symbolic reasons. It was a 9-story reinforced concrete structure completed in 1977 that housed regional offices for multiple federal agencies. Its distinctive glass curtain wall on the north side would shatter spectacularly under blast pressure, creating the kind of dramatic visual McVeigh believed would maximize media impact. An adjacent open parking lot and surrounding area provided a clear line of sight and reduced the risk that nearby structures would muffle the blast. McVeigh reported calculating vantage points and parking positions during recon visits in December 94, weighing how to position the truck for maximum effect while trying to limit what he considered unnecessary collateral damage to purely private businesses, which, as we'll see, didn't end up happening.
Yeah, and considering his attitude before the end of everything,
Yeah.
it was a little surprising.
The bomb's architecture was designed around a shape charge concept. Plans called for more than 4,800 pounds of ammonium nitrate mixed with approximately 1,200 pounds of liquid nitromethane and several hundred gallons of diesel fuel, all loaded into 13 55-gallon drums. Well, there's your numbers. 9 of the drums would contain the nitromethane-enhanced mixture. The remaining 4 would contain the ammonium nitrate diesel blend. The barrels were to be arranged inside the cargo box of a rental truck in a backward J. So a candy cane. Well, I guess a backwards J, not upside down.
Yeah.
With additional ammonium nitrate used to tamp against the aluminum side panel, directing the majority of the blast laterally toward the building. 350 pounds of Tovex sausages would serve as boosters initiated by a dual fuse system of cannon fuse routed through the shock tubes and non-electric blasting caps. The entire device was projected to weigh around 7,000 pounds and could be assembled for roughly $5,000 in materials.
Essentially, they made it so that this is going to go up and into the guts of the building.
Yep.
If we don't have an image of it, but if you actually look up the bomb, what the aftermath of the bomb is, it's like somebody took a. If you ever take an ice cream scooper and across it and makes that little half cylinder cut down, that's kind of what happened with the Murrah building.
Yeah. So today, those materials would be 11,300.
Yeah. Also, you good luck trying to get anything. I think about for any of these, once you get past the 100-pound mark, you're getting a visit from one of the alphabet agencies, or all of them.
For those actually watching us, that is the aftermath of the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah, as like you said, it was designed to gut the building to get in deep enough inside and kind of almost like it scooped it out. So
Fortier's role remained limited and ambivalent. McVeigh showed him a diagram of the proposed bomb in October '94 and invited him to participate more directly. Fortier accompanied McVeigh on at least one trip to test mixtures in the Arizona desert and was present when certain components were discussed. Still, he ultimately refused to take part in the attack itself. He later told investigators he had expressed concern about the number of civilians who would be killed. McVeigh reportedly countered by arguing that federal employees working in the targeted agencies were effectively complicit in the system that had produced the tragedies at Waco and Ruby Ridge, comparing them, in one recounted conversation, to stormtroopers serving an evil empire.
yeah, somebody's watching Star Wars too much.
Fortier's withdrawal did not derail the plan. It simply meant the core work fell to McVeigh and Nichols.
And for I mean, really, this justification is the same one that the IRA used to bombing pubs in
Yeah.
England and Scotland and across Ireland, simply because the majority of the weekend crowd were British soldiers. So therefore, it's a soldiers' pub. Therefore, it's a legitimate target. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Storage and logistics were handled methodically. In late September '94, McVeigh rented a unit at a storage facility in Harrington, Kansas that would eventually hold the growing stockpile of fertilizer, fuel drums, stolen explosives, and other components. Nichols' rural properties and routines provided additional cover for moving large quantities of agricultural chemicals without immediate scrutiny. Throughout the winter, the two men shuttled materials between locations, refined the bomb design on paper and in small-scale tests, and continued to monitor the chosen target from a distance. By early '95, the conspiracy had taken on a clear operational shape. The date of April 19 had been locked in months earlier. Both the second anniversary of the Waco fire and the anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord, giving the attack a dual layer of symbolic resonance for the conspirators. The target was fixed. The materials were largely assembled. The technical blueprint for a shape-charged truck bomb had been tested and refined. What remained were the final logistics of renting a suitable vehicle, positioning a getaway car, and completing the physical mixing and loading of the device itself. Those last steps would bring months of preparation to a close in the days immediately before the planned attack. Throughout this period, the men operated with a high degree of operational security for amateurs, relying on cash transactions, false names were necessary, and the everyday cover of rural life and gun show circuits.
Yeah. False names until it actually mattered.
Yeah.
Nichols handled many of the large fertilizer purchases and maintained the Harrington storage unit. McVeigh focused on target reconnaissance, component sourcing that required travel, and the overarching strategic vision. Fortier's limited involvement and eventual withdrawal underscored that even within this small circle, commitment levels varied. Yet the core plan moving forward with methodical patience, turning a shared ideology of grievance into a detailed blueprint for mass destruction. By mid-April '95, the pieces were nearly in place.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't feel bad for Michael Fortier at all.
No,
Because he could have easily went to the police at any
Could have reported
point
this entire thing.
and reported the entire thing, and all those people would still be alive today.
Which makes him...
An accomplice.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, even the FBI agents who would interview Michael Fortier, like this, they even said the guy was a chicken shit. He was a chicken shit. He talked the talk, and then when it was go time, he chickened out because he didn't want to do it. And he obviously claimed, like, oh, I don't want people to be killed. It's horrible. It's like,
You had
Yeah.
no problem killing people before.
yeah. And like, even one of the FBI, he told one of the FBI agents, like, you know we're at war, right? And the agent, I said, like, no, we're not, because we're at war. I would kill you.
Yeah.
And it's like, kind of wish you did.
Keeping in mind, especially at that time, a lot of FBI guys are former military.
Yeah.
A lot of us, and this time a lot of them are like old Vietnam vets that saw a lot more shit.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't give a fuck. At first light, on April 19, 1995, McVeigh changed the detonation time he had carried since the previous fall. He had planned to reach the target closer to 11 o'clock. Instead, as the sky began to pale, he decided the device would function at 9. This is going to make a huge difference.
Yes.
He started the engine of the Ryder truck, RYDER, yes, that company that's still in service today, where it had sat through the night near Ponca City and pulled back onto the road, beginning the final stretch south. The truck moved steadily along I-35 in the cool early morning. Its loaded cargo made every movement deliberate. The steering required steady hands, acceleration came in measured increments, and the vehicle held the road with a noticeable weight. He passed through small towns, still easing into the day. Porch lights flicked off in a few houses. A handful of early vehicles appeared on the side roads. The ordinary rhythm of people beginning work or school runs continued around him while the truck continued uninterrupted. He entered the outskirts of Oklahoma City at 8:50 a.m. The highway gave way to city streets. Buildings began to appear on either side as he continued toward downtown. 7 minutes later, at 8:57, a security camera mounted in the lobby of the Regency Tower Apartments recorded the yellow Ryder truck moving steadily toward the Murrah Federal Building. At that exact moment, while still driving, McVeigh lit the longer of the two fuses, the 5-minute delay. He kept the truck moving forward through the quiet blocks. Imagine if he lit the wrong fucking fuse.
Or better, or worse. Well, it wouldn't have been. It, would have
It
been bad
probably
for him.
would have been worse because he's on a busy street.
Yeah. If he had run into traffic. I mean, imagine if there had been a cement truck right in front of him.
He would have blown it up right there.
Yeah.
Or imagine he was speeding.
Yeah, cop pulls
Got
him
pulled
over.
over.
I mean, generally speaking, I never pull over big trucks unless they were driving. Unless they're doing something like erratically driving,
Yeah.
you don't bother with them.
3 minutes after that, with roughly a block remaining, he lit the shorter backup fuse. The truck continued its approach. He turned into the drop-off zone directly in front of the building's north face and brought the vehicle to a stop in the handicapped parking area positioned beneath the second-floor daycare center. Imagine, like, some parking official, like, just walking up, "Oh, let me go ticket this person for not parking in a handicapped spot."
For parking in a handicap.
Or, yeah. And then seeing these fuses.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah, because unless you know exactly what
I'm not trained for this.
Yeah.
I'm just a parking meter. The engine idled for only a moment. Also, I want to keep in mind, everybody keep in mind this daycare center that was in the building or near the building.
It was in the building.
Yeah. A lot of the federal agents' kids were in that daycare center.
Yeah.
They would bring I believe it was technically I don't think it was owned by the government, but the government was paying them to be there.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So that
they were a
they could
lease
come
company.
in, drop their kids off, and go up to work, blah, 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 come down, grab their kids, go home.
Also, this daycare was not exclusively for the federal
No,
agents.
it wasn't, but
Because right down the road was the Oklahoma City Municipal Building.
Yeah.
So quite a few of the
Kids were there.
who were people who worked for the city of Oklahoma City. They
Yeah.
weren't just federal workers' kids.
So the engine idled for only a moment. He shifted into park, turned the key, opened the driver's door, stepped out onto the pavement. He locked the door behind him, then began walking north away from the truck. A few blocks later, he dropped the keys onto the ground and kept moving. The yellow 1977 Mercury Marquis waited where it had been positioned days earlier, several blocks from the target. He reached it, opened the door, and got inside. He started the engine and drove north out of the city, leaving the Ryder truck locked and stationary in the morning street behind him. The fuses continued their countdown as the Mercury moved away through the quiet downtown blocks.
And for what I remember hearing about it, like witnesses who were outside the building who survived had said that they saw McVeigh and he didn't run, he didn't do anything. He just a steady, brisk walk away.
Yeah.
Like he was that tells you how devoted to this he was, because if that cord is wrong, if he lights it the wrong way, however, maybe it burns a little quicker than normal, he's going up with the blast. He won't have enough time to get away from the blast radius where he won't be either killed or seriously injured. And he was, that's how crazy he was.
At 9:02 a.m. on April 19th, 1995, the explosion struck the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building with sudden and overwhelming force. The detonation created a crater 30 feet wide and 8 feet deep in Northwest 5th Street and sheared away the entire north face of the 9-story structure. The northern half of the building collapsed in roughly 7 seconds as the shockwave lifted the lower floors before critical supports failed, triggering a progressive downward collapse that buried large sections under layers of concrete, steel reinforcement, office furniture, and falling debris. Inside the building, the change from routine morning activity to catastrophe happened without warning. People sitting at desks, walking through hallways, or caring for children in the second-floor daycare center experienced an instantaneous and violent disruption. The floor beneath some individuals dropped away, while others were thrown sideways or upward by the blast wave as it passed through the structure. Many struck walls, desks, or other people before being covered by falling material. Within seconds, visibility disappeared completely. A thick, choking cloud of dust and pulverized concrete filled every space, turning the interior into total darkness. Breathing became difficult as the air filled with fine particles. Survivors later described the sound as a single massive roar followed by the grinding, cracking, and crashing of an entire building coming apart around them. Some remained conscious, but trapped in small voids created by fallen beams and collapsed furniture. Others lost consciousness immediately from the impact or from being buried under heavy debris. In the sudden blackness, people called out to coworkers or family members they could no longer see. The only immediate responses were the sounds of shifting rubble, distant voices, and the settling of dust. The collapse was not uniform. In some areas, entire floors collapsed onto the levels below, crushing everything in between. In other sections, partial voids remained where furniture or structural elements created temporary pockets. People trapped in these spaces often could not move their arms or legs freely. Some could hear others nearby but could not reach them. The darkness was absolute, and the dust made it impossible to see even a few inches. The air tasted and smelled of concrete dust and smoke. For those still conscious, the first minutes were marked by disorientation, pain from injuries, and the growing realization that they were trapped inside a building that had partially collapsed around them. Outside the building, the blast was expanded outward with equal suddenness. Windows in 258 nearby structures shattered at once, sending glass shards into offices, sidewalks, parking lots, and streets for blocks in every direction. The flying glass caused the majority of injuries and deaths among people who had been outside the Murrah building itself. Individuals walking on sidewalks or sitting in nearby offices were struck without warning. Several people in adjacent buildings and parking lots across the street were killed outright by the pressure wave and debris. Dozens of vehicles parked around the site were crushed, thrown through the air, or immediately set on fire. Within seconds, smoke began rising from multiple points, and thick dust clouds rolled down the surrounding streets. People who had been going about their morning routines nearby found themselves covered in glass and debris, bleeding from cuts, and struggling to understand what had just occurred. The area around the building transformed in moments. The north side of the Murrah structure stood exposed and partially collapsed, with smoke rising from the crater and from burning vehicles. Injured people began emerging from nearby buildings, many with blood streaming from lacerations caused by flying glass. Some stumbled or crawled away from the immediate vicinity, while others remained where they had fallen. The noise of car alarms replaced the sound of the explosion, distant voices calling for help, and the crackling of small fires. Within the first minutes, the scale of destruction was already visible to anyone who could see the building. A large section of a major downtown structure had been torn open, and the streets in front of it had been cratered. In those first few minutes, confusion gave way to urgent action. People who had been blocks away felt the concussion and saw the rising smoke. Many began moving toward the site without knowing the full extent of what had happened. Firefighters, police officers, and emergency medical personnel who were already in the downtown area or heard the blast over their radios started driving within minutes. They encountered a scene of widespread damage and multiple injured individuals. Some first responders began entering the unstable structure and almost immediately working in small teams to search for survivors by listening for voices and feeling through the rubble in near total darkness. Civilians who had been nearby also rushed in and began helping without waiting for instructions, carrying injured people out of harm's way using clothing or available materials as makeshift bandages and assisting those who could still walk. Yeah, this is brutal. Imagine just walking to the park and out of nowhere, glass is flying and hits you in the throat.
Yeah.
And you're bleeding out now. On your day off, sitting there walking your dog, you look down, your dog's dead because glass hit it. And obviously we don't agree with Fortier, but he was right in this aspect. The plan had too many civilian casualties.
Yes.
Yeah. This is... I mean, this was brutal. I mean, this is what really... I remember the news and everything. People across the nation were shocked. I mean, it's...
At the time, it was...
This was 9/11. This was
the largest domestic terror incident in U.S. history.
Yeah. This
at
was...
the time. Until 9/11.
Yeah. Images of people just basically being shredded even were on the news.
I mean, so, like, obviously I was very little when this happened. I was 3. So I don't know any of this. But, I mean, we can equate it to... And you were still pretty young still.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, we can equate it to remembering 9/11.
Yeah.
Watching the images of people jumping out of the building so that they weren't on fire or collapsing. And don't worry, we will end up doing episodes on 9/11.
Yeah.
Because, my God, it is crazy now that there's people alive who don't
remember.
Like, at my job, I work at a hospital, and we have patients that come in that were born in, like, 2003, 2004, and they're old enough to drive. And I'm like, the fuck? How do you not remember 9/11?
Yeah, like, I know it's taught in schools, but it's one thing to watch, like...
Yeah. We watched
TV shows about it, but actually... Because I remember sitting in 5th grade in the classroom being told, do not talk to the younger students. We're putting this on. Don't share it with anybody.
Yeah.
Well,
And I sat there and watched the people jump out of the building.
Well, and then I'm sure it's very different for kids like Ben who are in New York when this happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not New York City,
no,
obviously,
but
it's still your state.
Oh yeah, we went on lockdown.
Yeah, like
And-
who knows what they're going to hit next?
Yeah,
Well,
we
I
went
even-
on lockdown and I got pulled out of school early.
Our whole school.
Well, I even remember with Oklahoma. I was still 7, so I don't remember the details, but I remember. I have family in Oklahoma, which obviously not in Oklahoma City. Of course, my grandmother love my grandma, God rest her soul, but she was a little irrational. She called her sister, or calling her niece, because she can't call her sister because her sister's deaf. So that wouldn't really worked out too well. But calling, are you okay? And we're like, what happened? and then they're like, oh my god, they're in Tulsa.
So her sister didn't hear about it?
No, I don't make those jokes. But that was just the irrational thing. Every fear was, my grandma's calling to make sure her family's okay in Oklahoma, and it's like they live in Tulsa. It's like 2 hours away.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even have heard the blast.
Yeah. And again, we'll talk about 9/11 more and like our experiences with 9/11 once we do it, and get to that because we will. I actually want to do it on September 11th. We'll probably do it next season. Do it September 11th on the anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
So, because next year will be 16 years.
Yeah.
No, it would be over 16. It would be 26 years.
26 years. Yeah. God.
I know.
Oh, damn.
So, triage efforts started quickly on the street amid the debris. The most critically injured were assessed where they lay, as they should have been, and medical personnel worked to stabilize them while additional help continued to arrive. Some of the most severe injuries required immediate interventions on the ground, including amputations performed without anesthesia to prevent patients from going into fatal shock. These procedures were carried out by medical workers using whatever tools were at hand in the chaotic environment. Throughout the area, people moved with focused urgency, driven by the immediate need to help those who were hurt and to locate anyone still trapped inside the collapsed sections. As more responders reached the scene, the challenges of working in the rubble became clear. The structure remained unstable, with shifting debris and the constant risk of further collapse. Dust and smoke continued to fill the air, making breathing difficult and reducing visibility. Rescuers periodically called for silence so that sensitive listening devices could detect heartbeat or faint voices beneath the debris. Actually, so believe it or not, talking about 9/11, this is what sparked the search dogs for like big bombings and stuff like this. It was the Oklahoma City bombing. They started training dogs to sniff through debris.
I did not know
to find and smell heartbeats and things like that. And then obviously we've seen the pictures of the dogs on 9/11 working for 4 days straight finding bodies, and them having to, which again we'll talk about it in 9/11. I don't know if you guys know this.
I do. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
They would take a firefighter and put them under rubble and let the dog find a firefighter and have him jump up alive so that the dogs wouldn't get depressed.
Oh no, the reason they started doing that was because the dogs were getting depressed.
Yeah,
because
I
they
know.
weren't
That's
finding
what I just said.
Yeah,
so they wouldn't get. Yeah,
they weren't finding anybody.
They were finding people. They were just dead.
Yeah.
So they weren't getting praised for finding the people alive. But well, again, we'll talk about that more in 9/11. So some had been trapped only briefly, while others remained buried for much longer periods. In the first hour, approximately 50 people were pulled from the rubble alive. The work required physical strength, careful movement through unstable areas, and constant attention to the sounds and movements of the surrounding wreckage. By mid-morning, the response had grown in scale, but the fundamental conditions of those first minutes persisted. A brief evacuation of a 4-block area occurred around 10:28 a.m. after a report of a possible second device, though the object was later determined to be inert. Throughout the morning, the focus remained on locating and extracting anyone still alive while managing the hazards of the unstable structure. The scene was one of concentrated, ongoing effort amid widespread destruction, as more personnel and resources continued to arrive with each passing hour. The immediate priority stayed on the people still trapped and the injured who required urgent care in the chaotic environment created by the detonation. And in this, they were calling off-duty officers, off-duty medics, off-duty firefighters. Surrounding cities were coming in to help.
I think the guard came in.
The National Guard came in. They were coming in to maintain order and create the radius. I know they brought in like Army medics and things like that who are used to, especially at this time, used to treating people in collapsed buildings and stuff like that because they were doing field medicine in Iraq.
And then also a similar terrorist attack like this had occurred in Saudi Arabia, Khobar Towers.
So, yeah, they brought in a lot of stuff, but yeah. So, that brings us to the end of this episode. We have followed the story from the uneasy atmosphere of the mid-1990s through one man's transformation and the careful assembly of a deadly plan. Of a deadly plan all the way to the quiet streets of Oklahoma City on the morning of April 19th, 1995. We stood with him as he made the final drive, parked the truck, and walked away. And then at 9:02 a.m., everything changed in an instant in the space of seconds. A building was torn open, floors collapsed, and ordinary people found themselves in total darkness, buried under rubble or stumbling through streets filled with flying glass and smoke. It's a difficult place to pause. Those first minutes after the blast feel almost impossible to grasp fully. The suddenness of the destruction, the confusion, the voices calling out in the dust, and the way people began running toward the danger instead of away from it. Even now, after walking through every step that led to that moment, the reality of what happened at 9:02 a.m. still lands with a heavy weight. If you've been listening alongside us, you may be sitting with some of the same questions we are. What part of the story has stayed with you the most? Was it the long, deliberate planning that unfolded over months? The quiet, solitary drive on that final morning? Or was it the sheer speed with which everything was torn apart, and the way strangers immediately began helping one another in the chaos that followed? We would genuinely like to know. If something from this episode has stayed with you, we would welcome hearing your thoughts, whether through a message on Facebook or YouTube, or an email at scarlet.tavern.podcast@gmail.com. Sometimes putting words to what we're carrying can make it a little easier to hold. We also want to make it clear that this was a very heavy episode. If listening to the details of the explosion and those first moments of horror has brought up difficult feelings, please take care of yourself. There's no shame in needing to step away or talk to someone. In our next episode, we will pick up in the smoke and rubble of those first hours. We will follow how investigators worked with remarkable speed to identify those responsible, how the case was built, and what unfolded in the courtroom. We will also spend some time with the people who survived that morning and the families who lost loved ones, and we will look at how this single act of violence changed the way the country thought about safety and domestic terrorism in the years that followed. Thank you for joining us tonight at the Scarlet Tavern, where the candles burn low, the stories burn deep, and the truth is always one drink away. We will be back soon with episode 2. Until then, take care. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.